Hey guys, it's Lisa and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to make a couple of small gifts to give, and these can obviously be for Christmas or just any time of the year. But this first one I'm going to need to make some molds. So I'm using some resin here, and you mix one part of the part A and one part of the part B, and then you stir it together and pour it in your molds. And that's how simple making resin molds is. And then what's absolutely wonderful about it is it will set up in a matter of 10 minutes and it will be ready to use. So I just pour all of these full because these are the molds that I'm going to be using for this first one. And then a trim mold also. And I will try to find both of these, and link them in the description. This one on the top is called the trinket mold, and that's a redesign with Prima mold. And I think the other is the one that I'm pouring here is also a redesign mold, and I think this is called their trim mold. So these are the little wooden squares from the Dollar Tree. And that's what I'm going to be using for this. They come 6 to a pack. And these are some of the molds that I poured and some that I had poured ahead. And the one there on the top, the other piece of trim, is one that I just made with hot glue. So just to keep from having to pour another one, I'm just going to use one that's hot glue. Now I'm going to take 4 of these trinket molds that I already had poured, and I'm using 4 that are alike, and I'm going to glue them to all 4 corners. And then I'm going to take some of these pieces of trim and fill in between those to trim out around the edges. So I'm just gluing these on with the Thick and Quick Titebond because I've got some time for this to dry. And then once I get all of those on and I'm happy with the placement, then I just set it aside to let it dry, and then I'm going to paint the whole thing with the color buttercream. And then I'm going to take half of these little trinket molds and paint them in the color Willow Tree, which is a Dixie Belle color. It's actually a new Dixie Belle color. And then half of them I'm going to leave the color that they are. But I am going over them with some Van Dyke brown glaze, and so that down in all the creases I have plenty of that dark to make the dimension, or to make the details in it pop. And once I do those, then I clear coat the ones that I painted green. And then once I clear coated them and let them dry, then I also did this to the green ones. I didn't want the green to take too much of that glaze, is why I clear coated them first. But then I felt like these still needed to maybe be lightened up a little bit. So I took some of the buttercream and just dry brushed over the top of all of these. And then once that dried, then I clear coated them. So I took some extra steps that if I had made the right choice to begin with, I wouldn't have had to do. But these are just the colors that I chose to do. Obviously, you can use any color that you want here. And I also clear coated the little board that I made and went over it then with the brown glaze to kind of bring this together. Now here I haven't added my dry brush of the lighter color over the top of these little trinket molds, but I do add that later. So here's where I'm dry brushing it. And again, once I dry brush that buttercream color over the top of all of these and let them dry, then I added another coat of clear coat. But after I got my little board, and I don't know if I said or not, but this is going to be a little tic-tac-toe board. And before I clear coat this, I need to make my little lines on it. And I had this very large tongue depressor, so I just cut the section to fit in between those because it was wide enough actually perfect for these little molds. So that's how I drew my lines, and then I just went back over it with a brush and painted the lines on it with a small artist brush. And I did that in that same color of green. And then once that was dry, that's where I take it outside and just spray the whole thing with a clear coat. But as you can see, this makes a cute little tic-tac-toe board. But then I needed a box to keep it in. And Dollar Tree has the cutest little boxes that open from side to side like this. And obviously they're Christmas colored, so I needed to paint them. So I just, I clear coated them first because I was afraid I would get some bleed through. And both on the inside and out. And I painted the whole thing in the color buttercream. And I had to do a couple of coats. And there was also a cardboard emblem that was on the front, and I took that off. So now this has already been painted with 2 coats and let it dry. And now I'm just taking this is just a rice paper that I had, and I'm gluing this over the front. So I just added that and then trimmed off the excess. And then I took my little finger sander and sanded around the edges when it dried. And I used my X-Acto knife to cut down the seam so that the box would still open. And then I also used my little finger sander on that. And then this whole box will get a top coat. And then my friend Myra sent me a bunch of molds, and this was one of them. And I just took some of my zinc-colored gilding wax and just kind of rubbed on the high spots with my finger, and that's the only thing that I did to the mold. And I also took some of that gilding wax and went along all of the edges. And the reason for that is because this particular mold, I had already used that gilding on. And so I needed to make that go with my box. So I just went around the edges, not on the flat spots. I got a little bit there and had to take a baby wipe and get it off. And as you can see, this little tic-tac-toe board will fit perfectly into this little box. But after I put it in there, I realized that although the box goes with the mold that I'm going to be gluing onto the box, it doesn't really pull this green as much as I would like it to. There's a little bit of the green in the rice paper, but not enough. So I took a little stencil and some green Stays On ink, and I think I used the color olive green, and just added some very light touches of green to my box. But here I am gluing this mold on, and I just obviously glue it on half of the mold, and I'm using both hot glue and Titebond here. And then this is how the little cardboard emblem was on the box originally. It either had a snowman or a Santa Claus or a Christmas tree or something like that, but I just thought this would be a good way to use my molds. But here I am using a stencil and a makeup brush and adding just very light touches of the green to the box. And then when I was finished with the stencil, my brush had just a little bit on it, and I very lightly dry brushed that around all of the edges. And I think this would make a neat little gift for just about anyone, because you could decorate it to suit whoever you're giving it to. It wouldn't have to be quite so dressy if it wasn't going to a female. And then the next gift that I wanted to do was for those who like to play cards, and my family does. So I'm going to make a set for my daughter, and you just use 2 CDs, and you first hot glue some quilt batting on them, and this is just some warm and natural quilt batting. So you're going to glue those on all of the CDs. You're going to need twice as many CDs as you need card holders. And what this is for is it will hold your hand of cards so that when your hand gets really large, it's a lot easier to keep up with them. So what you do is you glue the, again, you just glue that quilt batting on one side of each of the CDs, and you want to make it slightly larger than the CD itself so that you can make sure and wrap those edges well. And then you're just going to put a bead of hot glue just at the tip of the other side and at the very edge of the other side, and you're just going to roll that around and make sure that it's secure. That's how you're going to wrap all of these. So again, you need 2 per holder, and you're going to put a piece of quilt batting on all of them. And then the next step is to take a piece of fabric, and I'm using this fabric because it's what I had that was stretchy. Now, I have seen these made with felt, and that works really well, and you can even cut out shapes, the shapes of the spade and the diamond and the heart and the club, and glue to the other side to dress it up. But these, I'm just going to use this floral fabric that I already have, but you're going to sew a seam around the whole outside edge, and you want a small seam. You just want to fold it over just a little bit, and then you're going to take big stitches all the way around it. If you've ever sewed a yo-yo quilt, this is exactly what we're doing. Now you want a good strong thread here, and that's why I'm using upholstery thread. Now I gathered mine a little ahead of time, and so I'm having to kind of work it around that. But as you can see, it covers it really well, especially since this fabric has a give to it. So it just kind of stretches around there, and you pull it taut, and then you put a knot in the end of it, and then you've got your outer side of your CD covered. And then because I want this to lay flush, then I just take a bead of hot glue underneath the whole thing and make sure that it's really good and snug. Now, I saw these on Pinterest, and this is how they did it, and they didn't add anything else to the inside. What I might do the next set that I make is cut a circle just slightly smaller than the CD out of felt, and then glue that onto the inside to make that really good and smooth. It worked with the cards, but I could see that they might kind of catch if you don't have that circle. So if you make these, I would suggest that you cut a circle a little smaller with felt and glue on that unfinished inside. But then to attach the two together, you just put a large button on one side and sew it through to the other side and just kind of pull it taut. And then you just, that will hold it together. And then to finish off the other side, this is where you really need that upholstery thread or something that is good and strong, because you want to make sure that it doesn't give way. So I just sewed the first one on and went through it several times to make sure that it was good and strong. And then I glued a button to the other side to finish it. And then that just makes a good little, handy little tool to hold your cards when you're playing a game of cards. Now, I just used what I had here, but you could use just any kind of fabric and really, really dress these up and just make them so cute, I think. And I just found that a coffee can works perfect to fit these down inside of. So I just painted a coffee can and put a transfer on it to keep mine in. And I did 6 for myself, and it fit perfectly. But I think this is just the neatest little idea, and I know it's probably been around a lot longer than I knew it was, but I just thought it was a really, really cute idea. Now, if you know my daughter, you know she loves gag gifts, and I know we all have those in our family that do. But there's a couple of card games that we play where you do a lot of bluffing. Well, Savannah, my daughter, calls them out all the time. She calls everyone out. And if she's wrong, she has to pick up the whole entire deck. And so there are many games where she is holding so many cards that she just can't hold on to them. So I went to my local thrift store and bought a couple of old scratched records. And these are just the 33. So I'm going to do the same thing but using this large record. And so when she comes to play, obviously, I'm going to pull out this record and this is going to be hers. But I think she'll get a kick out of that, and honestly, we'll need to use it on many occasions. And because this one was so much larger and I didn't want to have too much give on it and lose the cards down inside it, I glued around the inside some so that it wouldn't have so much that it needed to hold together. So if that makes sense, I hope it does. And then I just added the button, just like with the others. I used a little bit larger button on these, but I don't know about you guys, but I struggle to find uses for my larger buttons, so this is a good place to use them. But I think these were two fun little projects and ones that you can put your own spin on, and I think you'll enjoy them. I know I enjoyed making them. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you in the next. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great evening, and God bless you and your family.